Praise the Lord, everybody. How many know that we serve an excellent God? We serve an able God, that despite what's going on, he still sits high on the throne. So if you could, just make that declaration in your household. He is still able. He's still worthy. He's still God. Oh, yeah, yeah. Exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask or think,
We welcome you here to Word on Wednesday. We are here with a presentation on the state of the church. My name is Reverend Michael Poindexter. I'm the Minister of Community Life and Outreach here at Metropolitan. I'm joined by my fellow interviewer, Reverend Jamel K. Robinson, who's our Director of Ministries here at Metropolitan. And then the person that we are interviewing tonight is our Senior Pastor, Reverend Dr. Damone Paul Johnson, who very quickly will be celebrating 17 years as a spiritual shepherd here at Metropolitan. The state of the church, clearly we are in a global pandemic as COVID-19, the coronavirus, has gripped the nation and gripped the world. And many people have the question, what about the church? Where's the church now? How does the church look moving forward? And so we are here to interview our senior pastor exactly on that topic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
This
glad
evening.
to be here and glad to talk about this most relevant subject.
So I guess the first thing we want to ask is, how are you? How are you and Lady Johnson handling stay home, COVID-19, all that good stuff?
Yeah, man, we're doing all right. We're doing well, keeping busy. A lot of calls, Zoom meetings and conference calls. I think I've never had so many conference calls and Zoom meetings. I'm busy with that and planning ministry, but it's also allowed us to get much needed some time of rest, and reflection, kind of realignment. In ministry, you spend a lot of time like a dog chasing its tail. You keep going through the motions, going round and round. And so it's good to kind of pause and have a time to kind of reflect and realign and reassess and get refreshed. God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day, God rested. So even God, I believe, was showing us the importance of, putting a pause and really helping to reaffirm the fact that the church and the world can go on without you. Sometimes we have a tendency to think it can't do it without us, but it really can. So this has really been a time to do that, as well as trying to observe the strict social distancing, recommendations, and really a time to realign some things and kind of seek God for God's will for us in this season and beyond.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, we definitely don't take it for granted you coming out of stay home and coming here to the house because it's a very important topic. Yeah. And people look to you as a model of how not only to do ministry but how to do life. And so the fact that you're here and can answer these important questions is important. I violated stay home so I could be here with you. And I know the same for Reverend Robinson. So go ahead, Mel.
Well, we got a good
enough distance.
Yeah, got enough
Right.
distance there. So we're practicing that.
Right.
Dr. Fauci would be proud of us. He'd be proud of us.
Gotcha. And I want to ask Reverend Poindexter, how are the wife? How's the kids?
Everyone's doing good. We're home all day with the kids, and things are great. And Amber's doing nursing school. The kids are still learning. But it's like Pastor Johnson definitely said. It's a good time to sit down and realign and repurpose. So same to you. How y'all doing?
Oh, we are doing awesome. The twins are doing well. I'm in no rush to open up a nursery.
All right, I understand.
But we're all doing well, and this has brought us a lot closer together. So we thank God for that.
Right.
Yeah, I saw this caption on Facebook that says, teachers are now asking parents, how's it going? How things going?
How's it going? Yeah.
We teachers, we don't know what we're doing. So you got it all. You the experts now. How's things going when you got to deal with your children all day? We have to.
Right.
But it's an adjustment.
It's an adjustment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Pastor, I think one of the most obvious questions on everyone's mind, especially since it's the start of the crisis, the dynamics of the church have shifted, dealing with social distancing, and we're not able to have live services. And so where do you see the church on the other side of COVID-19?
Well, first of all, I think we're going to have to think through, depending on how this pans out, meaning when this does sort of squelch or diminish in its volume, and we're at a point where it's more controlled and we are able to do more in-person activities, whether it's work or school and church. For the church, it's my presumption is that we're going to come back very similar to how we were quarantined in, and that is it was gradually. It went from 500 and down 250 and then to 10 now. So I would think that, to make sure that to kind of see how things are going, it'll be gradual. So maybe 50, then 100, then it goes, gradated. And so it's kind of thinking through what does that look like for us, particularly at Metropolitan. If it's 50 that can come that first in-person Sunday, then which 50? Is it, and then it's 100, and and kind of, how do we do that? What is our now the seating capacity and all of that? Observing those, if it's still going to be 6 feet, and then in fact, yesterday I was just kind of thinking through after we did communion virtually, how are we going to do baptism?
Right.
If it's still you have to keep that distance. How do you have a mass choir sing with social distancing?
Right.
Though just kind of thinking through those small groups. Of course we can use virtual, but if it's in person, those types of things, I believe the church will have to think through. At least initially. I also think that this has pushed many churches onto a social media platform that initially they either weren't doing or weren't moving as quickly. And as I've talked to some of my friends across the country who were slowly moving toward it, they had to kind of do in which they were planning for a couple of years. They had to do that in 2 weeks, as far as getting on if they're going to connect with your people. This is Facebook. Thank God for the medium of Facebook and technology, because Facebook is the medium that that's all they have to connect with their people.
Right.
So, I think that technology will be even more important in the realm of ministry. 1 Corinthians 9, Paul says, I become all things to all people that I might win some. And I think we're going to have to model that. You're going to, some in person, some social media, all of that is going to have to be, we're going to have to utilize all of those mediums and mechanisms and platforms to do effective ministry, to win some. And so I think that as we're moving toward it, it's showing us that, as I said Sunday, the building is closed. The church isn't closed. Metro is still doing ministry. We're still doing mission. We're still doing community outreach. The building is closed. And I think that it's teaching us, and as we go forward, the building will become less important. And program and people will become more important. And ingenuity, creativity, being inventive and innovative, that's going to be more crucial. Doing ministry in a post-COVID-19 world is going to require some innovation. And it's going to require some, of course, prayerful reflection, but asking God really open up and help us to utilize the creative side of our mindset to minister and to really stay connected, do ministry, do missions, do effective worship when, there may be some adjustments with in-person, from funerals to weddings to baptism to communion, all of those things. If it's gradual, what is gradual? Is it 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years? Mass choir singing, all of those things we're going to have to rethink some of those things if it is not, if coming back is not as soon as we think or would like for it to be.
So Do you think the longer that this goes on, I know there are probably some worries that the longer it goes on that it will keep people away from the church, or do you believe that it will draw people to the church?
I sense that, well, let me give you an example. The great preacher from London, Charles Spurgeon, in his second year at North Park Street, it became Metropolitan Tabernacle, but he was in his second year pastoring. They had in London the choleric plague, and it really, I mean, a lot of people, a lot of cases, a lot of people died. And there's a quote in his on his biography on him that he said that there's no scoffing at the gospel now. There's no mocking the gospel. People, their minds are more open to the preaching of the gospel than ever in his ministry. He's seen in his ministry. And I think that's what's going on, that there's something about, when people are dealing with mortality, dealing with when you see those those frozen trucks become morgues in New York City, and they're showing pictures of that over and over on television. People are talking about death rates, and then even persons that that are close to you passing away. That shifts priorities. Right. We've even seen that. I mean, literally in 2 weeks, the priorities have just changed. The things that I've not heard much about who's the most famous movie star. What's the top hip hop rap song right now? Right. I mean, not a whole lot of discussion about that. Right. Don't get me wrong. I miss March Madness, NCAA. Yeah. Wanted to know, would love to have found out who was going to be in the Final Four. But y'all, that's not on the front of people's minds. Right. Right. In the midst of this, fashion and fame and music and all that. No, when you are bombarded day after day with sickness and death, it sobers you up real quick. Yeah. And so people are looking for hope. Right. People need some hope. People are groping for some type of hope, grasping for it. And I think that their hearts are more open to hear the gospel in situations like this, because you need hope. Right. You need something to grab, because those things that heretofore were anchors for you have been ripped from their sockets. And anytime that this for the past 3 weeks, this is the news. Right. This is it. Right. This is totally consumed us, and so I think for the church, there'll be a yearning for God. Now, as far as the church, I think that people will be seeking it. People will look for the church, whether it's on e-church, virtual, or in church. People will need the church. People need it. People need to hear a word. People need to hear a word of encouragement, some type of direction, some type of inspiration. So. I've always found, I've been pastored next month 17 years. So, I've pastored through the Iraqi invasion that President Bush did in 2004. That was in the spring. Of course, the recession 2008, and I saw in 2008 a resurgence of church attendance went up when the stock market crashed, and the recession. That was an increase. There was an increase in attendance because people were feeling it in their pocketbooks. Right. So I think that these types of epidemics and natural disasters turn people to a place where they're like, what am I going to do? Right. And they search for God because they need it.
Several years ago, you were adamant on Reverend Robinson launching a website, starting online giving, which at that time for this area and even region and state and nation was foresight, right? There weren't too many churches doing online giving, and that was a priority that you wanted to do. And even website and ways to reach people, and even when the boom of social media, you were adamant that you wanted to make sure that we were on Facebook and that we had a way to reach folk. And then you even just mentioned e-church. And so how do you, what do you say to that person who's watching right now via stream in the comforts of their home or at work or in their car? What do you say for that e-church experience? How do you join a fellowship via e-church, and then how can we minister to them even though we can't physically see them?
Well, I mean, I think we've been doing that. Initially, the online church or Facebook church is for those who can't come physically, are unable because of their job. Some are ill, some are shut in. So, prior to this, that was the whole point, is one, to minister to our members who are unable to come for whatever reason, but then also to reach out beyond the four walls of the church and beyond our members to expose others to the gospel of Jesus Christ and to the flavor of ministry at Metropolitan. But I think going forward, it becomes even more critical that we expand our platforms. We're on Facebook, on stream live through our website. We're going to look at some things with YouTube and some other platforms, because really, church, you have to be innovative. Right. And thank God that we had we had already prepared with the streaming and things prior to this happening. That was critical. Many now had to, like I said before, had to rush and try to get something quick, because they didn't have those types of things in place. I know a couple of churches just this past week was their first time on Facebook Live this past Sunday. Wow. And so they're kind of getting accustomed to it, kind of adjusting to it, and thank God for it. I mean, that's the meaning. There was a time, we've done it before when we've had huge snowstorms. Right. But 17 years ago we canceled in a snowstorm. That's just it. We'll see y'all next week.
And at that time, that was shocking.
Yeah, just we put across that screen, no worship at Metropolitan, and God bless y'all. We'll see you, next Sunday. But thank God we don't have to miss, that, at least that part of worship and having our minds and our hearts coming together as one. I think it allows us to do that. E-church allows us to do that.
So Metro has always been community-centric, and and during a crisis, the community looks to the church to get involved and to help. And so, Metro has, been at the forefront of making sure that, in the summertime, Reverend Mike set up the camp for children, the home mission ministry with the Thanksgiving baskets. And so how has Metro been involved in the community as far as addressing the crisis?
Well, our Edna L. Hamilton Global Ministry has taken the lead. Sister Rosalind Wallace is the president. In our food pantry, and that's on Saturdays, 10 to 12 p.m., and then we've adopted our senior housing. We built and sponsored the building of the senior housing across the street, Idlewild and Drake Manor, 50 units of senior housing community development, and we've adopted the seniors there to provide food for them during this period, toiletries, things that they are in need of. So, the outreach of the ministry is continuing, but also looking to message the importance of staying safe during this pandemic. And because, unfortunately, there are many persons that are not taking this as seriously as they need to, not understanding the severity of this. And this thing is real, and a lot of people are getting the virus, are passing away from it, and some of it is just not taking it seriously. It was down there in D.C. when the mayor had to what is the Wharf or whatever that was, that restaurant there where people were there buying crab cakes and all that down there. And then even some churches where, our close proximity of churches and funerals and things, and people have it, and some people have died from it. I mean, just you got to take, this is real. This is not a joke. Right. And I think that to be at the forefront of messaging, that we need to quarantine, we need social distancing, we need to wash your hands on a regular basis, sanitize your alcohol-based hand sanitizer, those types of things. Don't take it for granted that everyone knows it or everyone is taking it seriously. So to reiterate that, to keep reminding people of that, is also a part of our outreach.
Right. So you spoke on coming up, Easter Sunday is this Sunday. And this will probably be the first time in history that we are not able to physically come together. I know Easter service Sunday, we always have 3 services. There's always jam-packed in here, and it's a great opportunity for outreach and evangelism. There are some people who wait all year just so they can come to church on Easter Sunday, right? And we welcome them and we love them. But what do you say to those folks who are discouraged, who have lost hope, and that, Easter Sunday is coming, they can't come to church this Sunday, and we don't know for the foreseeable future when they'll be able to come? What do you say to that discouraged person who's down on hope right now?
Sunday, I'm preaching at the early service when words won't work. And that is from that in Matthew 27, after the 7 sayings of Jesus on the cross, there were 4 natural silent witnesses: the darkening of the sun, the renting of the veil in the temple, the quaking of the earth, and the raising of the dead. And the premise is that after Jesus had he had been talking for 3.5 years, teaching and preaching and declaring who he was. And then even on the cross, 7 sayings from the cross, there's the hard-heartedness of humanity still not recognizing that he was the Son of God. Jesus is dead. His lips are closed as if God is saying, fine, son, they didn't get it with what you were saying. Words didn't work. Let me do some stuff to help you. Let me speak in the only way I can speak. Right. And God spoke in 4 ways. First of all, the darkness, the sun was dark. And, God sometimes can put the lights out. Wow. To get your attention. The veil in the temple was rent, and this is not a veil like a bridal veil. This is a huge, thick, like a Persian rug that could not be ripped by human hands, and it's ripped from the top to the bottom for God to get out and for people to get in. And then the earth quaked. So things you were used to, there was a shaking, and God shook some things up. And then, that was a geographical miracle. But then when the dead rose and they started walking around witnessing in Jerusalem, and out of the 11 resurrection appearances of Jesus, there are 11, he only appeared to believers. He never appeared to unbelievers. And my belief is that those witnesses, those dead who rose up, they went to the enemies of Jesus to say, as really an evidence of the resurrection. The resurrection of Jesus was so powerful that they were part of that first fruits of resurrection. Jesus obviously first, and then these dead that were rising up in Jerusalem, in the same city that he died. To those same persons. I believe someone went to the scribes, someone went to those Pharisees and said, I told you Jesus was real. I'm here to let you know. Yeah. And if you don't know, now you know. I was dead. And he got up and I got up too. Right. And as a message then because it was only after that it says the centurion said, surely this is the Son of God. Right. This is a righteous man. And the hope of resurrection, back to your thing about hope, is that really is that the power of God raised up Jesus, raised up those saints, and is able to raise you up. And that you will be raised. God will do for you in the resurrection what he did for his own son, what he did for those saints, he will do for you. And he will do for those loved ones who have passed away. Wow. That you're grieving now. That have passed, those friends, those family members that have gone away, that you're trying to figure out how you're going to make it without that individual. God's going to raise them up. God's going to raise you up. And it's a bodily resurrection. It's the Greek word is anastasis. It's bodily, not a spirit, not ghost. This is a bodily resurrection. And God is going to do that. And then at the 10 o'clock, I'm going to talk about 10 and 12. talk about from 1 Corinthians 15, where it talks about the appearances of Jesus and those places that he appeared. He appeared to Peter, and then he appeared to the 12. He appeared to James, because he appeared to different people, because no matter what situation you find yourself in, Jesus knows how to show up in your situation. Nice. He showed up individually, because you got to know him as an individual. You got to, in this time of period, you got to know Jesus for yourself.
Right.
You have to have your own personal relationship with God through a time like any time, but especially in a time like this.
Right.
But then at the same time, he appeared to the apostles. So that's why we have e-church. That's why we're doing a virtual church, because it's one thing to have Jesus yourself, but we ought to do it corporately. Even, it's a dedicated time where we can put our hearts and our minds together and say we are worshiping as a church family or as a community of faith. And then, he appeared to James, who was a ball and a shot caller. He was the head honcho in the church. Right. But if you're not so high and so important, you don't need Jesus. Mm-hmm. That's right. And he appeared to 500 because there were some people, we don't even know their names. Right. But, it doesn't matter. Jesus you still need Jesus, And so that's it. Yeah, the hope is the hope of the resurrection, physically not being here, but still celebrating the fact that he got up.
Okay,
and that's it. And because he got up, you can.
We're going to pause right here for a praise break. We'll be back.
That's it. That's it, Doc. He got up. And because he got up, we can get up. Yeah. We will physically get up within the resurrection, but then we can get up out of our slumber, get up out of our depression, get up out of our doubt. You can get up. Whatever has you down. If this COVID-19 has you feeling down and depressed, upset, disillusioned, out of control, he got up in the power of the resurrection. Right. And that means you have the power to overcome this, but you also have the power to become. And that's really the hope of this. That's my hope through all of this, is that we're going to overcome this. Right. And then we're going to become whatever God wants us to be in the midst of this, after this. So I wouldn't be discouraged. You say I'm a little excited about Sunday. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm excited about it, because that's, like you say, it's resurrection. This is it. This is our day where we celebrate the fact that our Savior died but rose again. And the other piece, though, I need to say is that I don't have to wait, though, till once a year to celebrate that he got up.
Right, right. We know. You let us know every Sunday.
No. So even though Easter's important, I know you talked about people who are a little disappointed, and of course I'm very disappointed we won't be in-person worship for Easter. Right. But we celebrate the fact that he got up every Sunday. Yeah, we do it in a more formalized way on Easter Sunday, but he got up.
That's right.
And I celebrate that every time, Doug.
I think one of the greatest tragedies of this pandemic is that when someone passes away because of the virus, that oftentimes their loved ones are not able to be at their side. And also for families, because of social distancing, families are not able to mourn their loved ones in the traditional, with a traditional funeral. Mm-hmm. So how have you as a pastor helped families through this grieving process?
I will admit that's been a challenge, wanting to do in person, the ministry of presence and pastoral care. There's some parts of ministry, it's not the same virtually. Being able to hold somebody's hand, to embrace them, it's hard to do that virtually, and so that has been a challenge for me. Wanting to be there in a more present way. I have members in the hospital. I've talked to them on the phone, pray with them on the phone, but being there, wanting to be there at their bedside, not able to do that. So that has been a challenge. So, but we as best we can, as much as we can, offer care and concern and love, So, but that's been a challenge. We got about a few more seconds. I just want to, as we kind of wrap up, thank y'all for participating in this. This has been absolutely awesome. I've enjoyed this. And I want to just encourage everyone. Of course, Metropolitan, you know, I love you so much. I love Metro, and Metro has been consistently watching, viewing. We have about 500 viewers, live viewers, either through the Facebook or through the website or on the call. Yeah. And then about 5,000 views afterwards, which is great, you know. So I'm thankful for that. And then also the church, you know, financially, you know, we've been consistently giving. Obviously, like every church, there's been an impact of us financially. Every church has faced that. But members have been very, very faithful in their tithes and offerings, and I'm grateful for that. Awesome. You know, so this has been wonderful.
Well, we thank you.
We worried about whether we'd have 30 minutes worth of...
Right, and then we could go for 2 hours. But no, we definitely thank you for taking the time, you know, to address everyone in Facebook Land. And on behalf of Pastor Johnson and Metropolitan, we want to thank all of our first-line responders, all those who are on the front line of battles, all of our nurses, police officers, those who are post office, postmen, and those who are on the front lines going to work every single day, those in the grocery stores, making sure that we have everything that we need. We thank you, and thank you, Pastor Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Y'all doing a great job, and, you know, looking to do more innovative ministry. You know, and this is part of that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Metropolitan wants to pray with you during this crisis. If you are someone you know needs prayer, you can contact our prayer warriors by phone, text, or voicemail, or email, and one of our intercessors will pray with you. Every time we come together, we have the opportunity to worship through giving. If you are joining us, we would ask that you help us be a blessing to those around us and to the world. On your screen, there are 5 ways you can give to Metropolitan. And we would like for you to stay connected with us. Please text METRO, METRO, to 518-313-5140 for updates. Our youth ministry team is available for the youth of Metropolitan and the community as a resource during this time of social distancing. For more information, visit our Facebook page or our website.